Fuck. Fucking back is just not having it today. That's okay. That's okay. Just take some more pain meds when we get home.
Hell yeah. Are you doing karaoke tonight?
I am doing karaoke tonight.
What time do you guys go to karaoke?
Usually Pearl tries to pick me up around like 7:30.
Okay.
Is usually when she likes to go.
Okay, cool. I think I can probably make it.
Hell yeah.
I might drive myself, so if you guys want to ride into the city, I could probably provide.
Oh, yeah, I mean...
I might dip early because I'm cat sitting. When do you guys normally end?
We normally end at about 11.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can just drive us in.
Okay.
And then if I, have to dip or something.
Okay, yeah, hit Pearl up about it,
Okay.
because she... I don't know, she'll figure out the driving things from there.
Yeah, because I'll just drive. I can just drive us there and then drive us back if it's 11. I was picturing 1 a.m. and I kind of don't want to leave the cat.
Oh no, we're not. Yeah, it's like we stayed till 12 once. we always leave basically at 11.
Or if I'm gonna, I don't know why I'm offering a ride. I don't need to give a ride. That's dumb.
Yeah, you also don't have to.
Yeah, I was like, well, I offered a ride there because I was like, I might leave early, but then, yeah, I don't need to. Okay. Welcome, everyone, to the Absolute Ultimate Escapist Comics Podcast. 2025 annual, number 1.
Mm-hmm.
We have not done an annual before because we have not existed for a year yet.
That said, get ready for 2025 annual number 2, which will come out next year, inexplicably.
Exactly. In 2027. This one's running a bit late. We've talked about this one a lot on the normal episodes, but we have not gotten a chance, largely just because we have not made it happen to actually do this. But this is going to be our best comics that we read of 2025 list. The way this is going to work, I think, is Persephone and I both have a list. Mine's not in order.
Mine's also not in order.
Best to worst or worst to best, which so
mine's also not.
Neither of ours are in order. How many titles do you have?
So that's actually a tricky question. So
I have 20.
I had 11, but I can also throw in some of my honorable mentions because I did make an honorable mentions list. So I'll just be like, these honorable mentions are also in that.
Okay, let's do that then. I'll just and then clearly we planned this really well ahead of time. So no, they're not in order, ascending or descending. I thought that we were doing top 20, which is why I have 20.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, but we're doing kind of top 20 because some of these would not, obviously half of these would not make it on my top 10.
Mm-hmm.
My thought is there's definitely overlap because Persephone and I read some of the same gas this year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what I'm proposing that we do is that when I list something that I read that is also on your list, we both discuss it together and we cross it off of our list. And then that way we're not coordinating which ones are on both of our lists. It just happens naturally. And then we just go back and forth.
That sounds really good. I like that idea.
And there will be some discussion because there's probably going to be some stuff that's on my list or your list that we read not in 2025, that the other one read not in 2025, so we'll obviously discuss. I have no idea how long this is going to go.
Okay, yeah.
But
fuck it, we ball.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
You subscribe to the annual for the good different shit that you don't get in the regular issues.
This is that square-bound, inexplicably $9.99 type shit. But yeah, so this is our 2025 annual.
Can I give a brief shout out to some books I didn't get to, but I wanted to?
Yeah, for sure.
Ultimate X-Men and Ultimate Spider-Man. Way behind on. I assume those will probably be in my running next year. Innocence by Shinichi Sakamoto. Catwoman by Darwin Cook and Brubaker. Cornelius: The Merry Life of a Wretched Dog. I'm
gonna read Catwoman this week. I have the omnibus.
Fuck yeah!
I have like a 1.5 foot worth of books that I'm gonna read this week, and that's the foundation of the stack.
That's
so
exciting.
I'm hyped. Yeah.
Please let me know because I have the compact, but I do eventually want to get to the whole run. And then Cornelius, I read like half of it, and then some things happened in my life which Some of you know, some of you don't. Don't worry about it. But I just couldn't read Cornelius anymore, and I have to come back to it. Worms Volume 2 by Erica Price, one of the best horror comics artists on the shelves. Incredible stuff. Steel Ball Run. And I think kind of the last one I want to throw out there. Did I miss? Oh, yeah. And one book that I did read that is not on the list that I think could be or would be if I give it another reread, and I will at some point, is Michael DeForge's Holy Lacrimony. I thought it was really good, but it didn't quite click with me when I first read it, and then I saw what's the name? Christopher Walken. There's a Christopher Walken movie called Communion that I later found out that Michael DeForge really likes, that I watched it after and was like, oh, I understand this book actually a lot more now about what this book is doing with like alien abductions and trauma and et cetera, et cetera. So I won't be talking about it on this podcast. My boy Michael DeForge is probably on every list I do, but I just need to give it a reread. And then there was, Teo Matsumoto didn't get a re-release this year, and that's why my boy is not on it, but he's been on it every single year that he's had a re-release from Viz.
He's the GOAT.
He's the GOAT.
Let's get right into it. I'll start, I guess. I'm gonna try to go from stuff that needs the least discussion to stuff that needs the most discussion, I think.
That's smart.
But you don't need to do that necessarily.
I like that idea.
This first one that I'm going to talk about is, I read this one during a complete reread of his entire bibliography, for a paper that I was trying to write, for a conference that I did not end up getting accepted into. This is Bad Gateway by Simon Hanselman.
Tight. Yeah.
Which is, honestly, I think, as in terms of object, one of the most beautiful books that we have in the store. It's, I think, Hanselman's best cohesive work. I think it's the best single overarching story / book that he does, which is not normally his forte. He's normally kind of a zine short story guy, or in the case of Crisis Zone, kind of like a freewheeling, almost like stream of consciousness-y, it'll go wherever the fuck it wants to go kind of story.
Daily Instagram webcomic kind of thing.
Yeah. But Bad Gateway is, it's really big. The format is huge if you've never seen it. Not massive, but it's probably more than a foot tall and probably 9 inches wide maybe.
Yeah.
And it really shows off his coloring, his art. It's so intricate. And then he's really able to use the kind of grid that he loves to use, because he's a real kind of grid-obsessed cartoonist.
Yeah.
To its fullest extent in Bad Gateway. And then emotionally, the storytelling, I probably reread that and a bunch of his other books every year, because I love his work. It gets me in touch with a lot of really powerful storytelling and cartooning that sometimes I lose touch with reading a lot of superhero stuff, and he grounds me right back into what I want to be reading and thinking about in my own work.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's the book that I would maybe hesitantly recommend as the book to read if you want to get into him, just because it is one whole emotionally overarching story. The reason I'm hesitant to recommend it is it's good to kind of know the characters that he's writing for Bad Gateway.
Yeah.
But I think if you're willing to kind of just be thrust into a world without any kind of intro, Bad Gateway is a really, really good work to start his bibliography on. And if you really want an intro to the characters, you can always just flip through some of his Instagram comics before you get Bad Gateway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's been reposting a bunch of some of his older stuff from both Mega Hex and Meg Mog and Owl, because that's how I read it. I had my last Cis X, which is 2016, turned me on to Mega Hex.
Mega Hex is the one that I actually tell people to start with normally.
Yeah, it is the first one, and it is kind of it is the best starting point. That said, there is The Thing, we'll just call it The Thing, and Mega Hex that, has not been addressed for, over a decade. And so I think people, when you start with that one now, people can get kind of hung up on it. Because, if you recommended it, even 5 years ago, you'd be like, yeah, no, Hanselman's getting to it, don't worry. And then now people are like, yeah, when's that thing with that happened going to get addressed? And you're just like, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Like,
he talks about that occasionally as like the thing that people still bring up really like pissed about and like angry with him about.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting, but I don't know that we need to like really discuss.
Yeah, we don't really need to discuss it. The only reason I brought it up was just like the interesting point of like having somebody trying to jump into Megahex now and then finding out, oh, this is not going to get addressed, most likely, and getting hung up on that. So that would be my concern and only concern with telling people to read Megahex first.
The other thing too, I think with Bad Gateway is it shows off how much he's grown with the characters that he's been writing for the last like 30 years or whatever. You know, like I think it feels like in terms of craft and storytelling the peak of his work.
Yeah. Easily, yeah.
But yeah, that's my first offering for the list is Bad Gateway by Simon Hanselman. Incredible work. I really struggled like thinking about which Hanselman book to put on because I was like, I'm not putting on like all 6 or whatever that I read this year.
Yeah.
But that's, I think like I feel pretty solid in putting that on the list. Yeah,
that's a good title. And that reminds me that I should say a rule that I have for myself, but not for anyone else, is that I don't count rereads unless I'm reading a substantive amount of new material. So, like, I've been having this debate because I'm reading Jamie Delano's Hellblazer this year, and I've read most of it, but there's enough new stuff, like Pandemonium and The Horrorist, that, like, I probably will inevitably include it on a 2026 list. Same with, like, Hickman's X-Men. I had read House and Powers of X before, but I decided to include it on my 24 list. So, anything that I have on this list is not rereads. If I included rereads, there potentially could be some other stuff. I didn't do nearly as much rereading this year as I have done in other years, but...
I think I have like 3 rereads on here.
Oh, tight, yeah.
That I was just like, these just beat out some of the other stuff by so far, you know?
No, absolutely. I had this problem because like in 24, I kept From Hell off the list because I reread it, and I was like, well, that's just going to knock off a bunch of books because, like, how are you going to compare anything to From Hell? Like, sorry, From Hell's just going to, like, and then I'd feel like an asshole coming in here and being like, have you heard of this little underground book called From Hell by Alan Moore? That said, I think with some difference, or not with some difference, I forgot what I was saying. Look, I'm still like eating food. I haven't eaten today. I've had an orange, so I'm still kind of getting my brain
She's had an orange.
I've had an orange. You've heard it here first, folks. But speaking of Alan Moore, actually, fuck it. Saga of the Swamp Thing.
Oh, damn, you're going right into it.
I'm going right into it. Fuck it, we ball. Saga of the Swamp Thing. Jesus. I can pick something else.
No, go for it. No, please.
So, Saga of the Swamp Thing is one of the few Alan Moore projects that I hadn't read when I was a teenager. And I knew I needed to get around to eventually... Kind of just never got around to it. Eventually, Walter in our store started reading all of Swamp Thing. We've talked about it on the podcast. Tate started reading all of Swamp Thing. I started reading all of Swamp Thing.
I'm not reading all of Swamp Thing.
Okay, no. You're just reading...
Don't put that on me.
No, you're reading all of Hellblazer. Or John Constantine. That's different. Walter's reading all of Swamp Thing. I have respectfully chosen to only dip into Alan Moore, Nancy Collins... Some of Rick Veitch for complicated reasons we'll probably talk about in 2026.
Romvi.
And Romvi. I was only going to do those 3, but then Veitch, there's a bunch of his stuff in the Delano compendium, and I was like, well, okay, I'll read it.
I was so confused by that, but we'll talk about that in the 2026 issue.
We'll talk about that in the 2026 issue. But Alan Moore Saga of the Swamp Thing. You know what? It's as good as everyone says it is. It's actually better. It's really fucking gas. The anatomy lesson... impeccable first issue, impeccable like relaunch of a character and like setting your entire groundwork and intentions from the jump. It is beautifully paced. The like prose is just like the best EC riff you're gonna hear. It's incredible, and then it just keeps getting better and better and going. The arc in Gotham is exceptional, where like his wife gets prosecuted for monster fucking.
That arc with like the Gotham regreening broke my brain for like 3 days. I would walk through cities and be like, there's not enough trees. There's not enough trees. Like, it made me hate urbanity.
Yeah.
I was so freaked out in the world after reading that, like, one volume.
It's like, I just want to sit, like, a jungle that has overtaken the streets and just, like, smoke a joint and, like, hang out with my plant dad.
Yeah, that bearded wizard fucked me up.
He fucked me up. And then, like, he just keeps going. Like, kind of partway in, he's, like, doing kind of an EC thing for a while. And it's good. It's very good. And then partway into it, he starts working with Rick Veitch as the main artist. And both of them have talked about that Veitch was like, I'm more interested in doing science fiction stuff. And Moore was like, yeah, I'm kind of tired of doing, after, like, the Arcane stuff, which is very, very good. He's like, I'm kind of tired of doing that. And so that's where you get the, like, Swamp Thing regreening arc, the, like, Abby prosecuted for monster fucking arc.
Swamp Thing in space.
Swamp Thing in space. We're going to talk a lot about Swamp Thing in space. Batman saying love wins. Directly saying love wins and being like, you're going to have to arrest everybody in or you're going to have to arrest all the superheroes for fucking people that are humans and they're not. Including, what's his name? The guy from Metropolis. It's fucking funny.
Yeah, I do think he nails Batman.
Yeah.
Too, which is, like, super interesting. Like, I mean, he's definitely poking fun at Batman.
Yeah.
And the issues that Batman appears in. But he also clearly just really gets...
Yeah.
Batman. I think he kind of plays a lot with, like, this notion of Batman kind of realizing that even though he's enforcing the law, he might actually need to reconsider whose law he's enforcing.
Yeah.
You know?
and as being a dude who's, like, willing to do that.
Yeah.
Like,
which I think is loyal to the character. Because ultimately Batman is not a police officer. You know? Like, that's an important... I think that's, like, kind of... If you have a friend who's like, Batman's a fascist, I think you should give them... It's like, what, volume 4 or 5 of Saga of the Swamp Thing?
Yeah.
And just be like, oh, yeah?
5. It's 5.
Here, read this, you know? Just because I think he plays a lot with the notion of vigilantism and, like, what right and what justice is, especially in the context of this really weird sci-fi world of DC Comics, you know, where it's like, you would have to see a really drastic shift in societal norms and regulations in a world where, like, 5 to 10% of the world has superpowers, you know? Yeah,
absolutely.
God, it's such a good series, guys. It's so good.
And I'm just going to throw this out there that, like, the space arc is some of the best stuff he's ever written, and it's not close. Like, it's like that and From Hell. Like, just clear everything else. Maybe V for Vendetta, I do need to reread that.
Maybe Promethea. I like Promethea a lot.
Yeah. Actually, Promethea was really important to me in, like, a foundational way. I need to reread that, too. Promethea and V for Vendetta being maybe the only things that...
It's a lot better than Watchmen,
It's so much better than Watchmen. No, there's an issue of Alan Moore's Swamp Thing where a naked blue man with his hog out experiences grief and, like, time dilation on an alien planet alone. And
I was thinking about that whole issue.
the Swamp Thing version, My Blue Heaven, is like 10 times better than the Watchmen one. And the Watchmen one is, to be clear, fantastic. It is very good comics. But, like, My Blue Heaven is, like, all-timer shit. Like, if you just handed me My Blue Heaven and nothing else, I'd be like... And I didn't know anything about Alan Moore. I didn't know anything. I'd be like, I will read everything this man ever does. Like, it is that fucking good. It is one of the most beautiful things I've read in a single issue of comics. And then he's also does, like, All Flesh is Grass, Loving the Alien, which is...
All Flesh is Grass is great.
It's so good. Loving the Alien is impeccable. I like the stuff fucking John Tolteben is doing with, like, collage, like, rivals some of the stuff even Dave McKean was doing with collage. Like,
or even, like, a lot of these issues make me think of early Jack Kirby work where he's doing, like, weird, insane sci-fi collages. You know, like, there's real experimentation, but he's working within a real lineage of these science fiction cartoonists in a way that's really cool to watch.
Yeah.
It is a book, I will say, it is so important to comics, but I think... if you have a friend, or if you yourself listening are somewhat new to comics, or new to comics that are, like, quote unquote serious or whatever, you might want to like work up to it. It's pretty intense in terms of like how complex it is, how dense. Cerebral it is. It's really dense, even in terms of like words. It's not Chris Claremont X-Men level dense, but it's pretty wordy.
Yeah. You put it to me as like you're reading a book, like a capital B book. Like you are committing to something. You're not burning through like 20 issues in like a night.
It was a book that my partner, who doesn't read comics almost at all, she was assigned an issue or two of it for a class, and she texted me and was like, she texted me and said, like, I'm having so much trouble, like, reading what's on the page. Because even, like, if you're used to just your regular old Batman comic or something, even just the layouts are going to be a little bit hard for you to stomach and be like, what is going on here? There's curves. He's, like, outside of the panel doing stuff. He's breaking the panel. There's
like broken shard paneling even in the first issue, which is like relatively tame, like has crazy broken shard paneling. This is a pin in it 2026. I eventually want to talk to you about some of the shit Rick Veitch does with the paneling, because that's
on my list.
And Veitch's Swamp Thing, because it's fucking insane, and it made me like really start to like what Veitch was doing. But anyway, that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite reads this year. That's, like, one of the things that felt most impactful that I read of 2025. I was so impressed by how developed it was for when it came out.
Yeah.
You know? It's... For those of you who don't know, it's, like, kind of a precursor to the Vertigo era. So, like, a lot of what is occurring in Swamp Thing occurs several years, I think, before Vertigo starts.
Yeah, Vertigo starts in 93, and Saga the Swamp Thing starts in, like, 87?
Yeah, it's, like, mid-80s. So you've got a significant amount of time in which... And Kieran Berger edited some of the issues, the later issues. And so you're seeing a lot of, like, in Swamp Thing, what will go on to influence kind of the best of 90s comics. It's, like, really laying a foundation for the best stuff that came out of non-underground indie comics of the era, and a lot of stuff that lays the foundation for kind of what we know today about the more out there, really high quality comics. Like, I think it's not an exaggeration to say, like, without Saga the Swamp Thing, and I think much more so without Saga the Swamp Thing than without Watchmen. Without Swamp Thing, there's, like, no Absolute Martian Manhunter.
Yeah.
There's no Shade the Changing Girl. There's no
Doom Patrol, certainly, or at least not the like Morrison.
Yeah, there's no Doom Patrol. I think that's very true. No, like anything that you're reading right now, where you're like, wow, this is like really out there for DC, like around these New Gods, for instance, like none of that exists. I think in a really literal way without Saga the Swamp Thing, because you have Alan Moore showing that big publishing house, big two comics, quote unquote superhero comics, can be art of a really high caliber without being deconstructive.
Yeah.
Because Watchmen, it's like, oh, well, Watchmen is literature because it's deconstructing and, like, taking apart and satirizing the superhero. But Saga of the Swamp Thing's not doing that at all. It's not interested in that whatsoever. And I think that's what makes it so foundational. And I think that's what also protects it from the kind of dude bros who like Watchmen.
Yeah.
The kind of Zack Snyders of the world who are like, oh, and I was trying to read other comics and I was like, nobody's killing each other, nobody's having sex. And then someone showed me Watchmen and I was like, I can get behind this. You know, it's like, it's really hard to read Saga of the Swamp Thing and be like Zack Snyder, basically.
Yeah. You simply can't, because it's just not... Yeah, it's not being a deconstruction is a really good... Like, it's too fucking earnest.
Yeah.
It's too earnest. It's too, like, interested in the interiority of women. And I think a lot of people think of Moore as, like, a guy who, like, writes women badly. And I will say there are some things that he's written. There's some stuff that's not good. But his, like, Abbey Arcane is very well written. I think his Abbey Arcane is very well written. I think the way that he writes about grief is incredibly sharp and beautiful.
Also about, like, love and eroticism, too. Yeah. I think this is the most mature way that he's written about desire in any comic that I've seen, which is really interesting, especially because he's writing about desire between a human woman and the Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's really touching. It's not saccharine. You're not like, oh, this is a romance comic.
No, it's beautiful.
But it's just, yeah, it's beautiful. It's so thoughtful, and there's no irony in it at all.
No.
I was actually reading some over Thanksgiving, and my grandma saw me reading it, and she was like, oh my god, is that Swamp Thing?
Whoa.
I used to love Swamp Thing.
Holy shit.
And so she read one of my volumes of Alan Moore's Swamp Thing.
Oh my god.
Because it was like a favorite of her youth, I guess. Which I thought was awesome.
Whoa.
So she was reading Saga of the Swamp Thing when she was visiting for Thanksgiving in 2025, which was great.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Dude.
Okay, should we do another one?
We should do another one, because we could
Okay.
honestly dedicate a whole
yeah.
podcast to Saga of the Swamp Thing, and we simply don't have that time.
Okay, I'm gonna do, my next one is gonna be Matt Fraction and David Ojrah's Hawkeye.
Oh,
Which
yes.
I read for the first time this year. This was one of my favorite, this was a year where I read a lot of really good Capes comics, and this is the kind of excellent comic and just excellent book in general where you read it and then you read a bunch of stuff that is not directly attached to it, but that came after it, and you see the marks of it in those later books.
Yeah.
So like, I was reading Ms. Marvel, and there were a few issues where the kind of layouts and stuff that David Ojrah works with, with Matt Fraction and Hawkeye, are like really on display.
Yeah.
And I was immediately like, oh my god, that's Fraction Hawkeye, you know?
Yeah.
And that's another comic that it's maybe a little subversive of what you expect from a superhero comic, but it's not trying to deconstruct superheroes.
No.
It's really earnest, it's really emotional, but it's just like he's playing with the way that we romanticize superheroes. And I think that's super interesting. And it's also just, it's beautiful. I like almost cried when I finished it. It's like, it really trends away from the kind of jokes that get thrown at Hawkeye without pretending that like Hawkeye is Batman and he can just like run through an army of men and survive unscathed while cities burn in the background or whatever, you know. It's like he's really fallible, he's weak physically, like he's doing his best. And I think that's where I think a lot of superheroes like that are their best, is it's a person just doing their best to help the communities around them, which is another thing that I've been noticing in comics that come after Hawkeye, of like the kind of smaller, more down-to-earth Marvel scale, like Ms. Marvel, which is like she's just a person, a very fallible, not a bad person, just a fallible person, trying to do right by her community. And that's like so valuable, especially because I think Marvel is not doing that right now.
Yeah.
Their Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man is in space.
Yeah. And that's the better part of the Amazing Spider-Man.
And I think the MCU has a lot to do with that. I think the MCU has like really stolen a lot of the kind of personality and intimacy that you can achieve with a lot of Marvel characters, which I think is where Marvel has a lot of strength over DC. Yeah. And I think reading Hawkeye, part of my like really intense emotional reaction was like, it's how I imagine like a 60-year-old watching like The Godfather or like On the Waterfront or Casablanca or something, and being like, they just don't make movies like this anymore. You know, like, and that's what reading Hawkeye felt like. Like I was yearning for a past that like was barely past, you know?
But like this is a really good book to put after Swamp Thing, because both of those books, are these incredibly earnest, non-deconstructionist pieces that like presage an incredibly good and ambitious era of storytelling for their respective companies, like the Swamp Thing leading to Vertigo, and then Hawkeye I think is the first comic in the kind of like rough, and this is a very rough period, like Hawkeye I believe was like 2011 2012, and then you get this like really good period from like 2012 to like 2016, maybe a little bit after Secret Wars, where they're like, we've talked about it on the show before, where like they're really taking like bold, ambitious swings where they're just like, we're just bringing everything back down to earth, we're just bringing in like writers and artists with like perspectives and ideas and like just fucking playing with shit. Like, just, like, really letting things be just, like...
There's a real, like, yin and yang, I think, to DC and Marvel. It's like, when one of them's good, often the other is, like, pretty trash.
Yeah.
And then the other one falls.
Yeah.
And like, I think DC's peaking.
Yeah.
I think we may see the crash of DC in the next 12 months.
Potentially.
You know?
Depending on how Absolute stuff shakes out.
You know, and they're doing DCKO and stuff, which feels...
Oof.
Hopefully they swerve more into the, like, Absolute Martian, New Gods...
They can't all be winners.
Rather than going, you know what we should do? We should keep making DCKOs. But I'm hoping... And rereading Ms. Marvel... Not rereading, because I've never read it, but reading Ms. Marvel, I was like, damn... I hope Marvel figures their shit out soon. Yeah. Please, God. But yeah, that's my third one.
Yeah. Hawkeye's just a brief thing. Yeah, Hawkeye's so... I read that when I was, like, a teenager, and I still remember it with just an unbelievable level of fondness.
That one, I'm so glad they made a compact edition of.
Yeah. That was one that, like, actually really needed it. Because it's, like, either you gotta buy, like, a $50 version with a dog shit cover, which you should still buy, because it's one of the greatest Marvel comics... modern, like, Marvel, or just like one of the great, like, modern Cape Comics, period. Yeah. It's beautiful. Like, it's the kind of stuff that we hype up fucking Fraction and Jimenez's Batman. Doesn't exist without that.
This, yeah.
Like, it's the kind of thing that if you read just that, you'd be like, yeah, Fraction just has the gas.
He cooks, yeah.
He cooks, yeah. When Fraction is cooking, he's cooking unbelievably hard. Beautiful book. If you haven't read it, read it.
Good.
Pizza Dog. My boy.
That's another book that I we were talking about this with Walter reading Bone, where I was just like, damn, I wish I could read this for the first time again. Like, I'm sad that I'll never read his Hawkeye for the first time. Anyway, what's next on your docket?
Alright, let's do one, since we've done a couple of longer ones, let's do one that I know is on both of our lists, and we're not going to talk as much about. Obviously, Absolute Martian Manhunter. Like... The gas is shit on the stand. Yeah. Sorry, everyone else. The only person even coming remotely... The only person, like, playing the same sport is, like, Rom V and Evan Cagle with New Gods. And that's, like, the only thing that's even close. Like, Image ain't got shit. Marvel's not got shit. Like, Absolute... Like, even other Absolute titles, which I really love, like Wonder Woman, we'll talk more about later, is a beautiful, wonderful book. Exceptional take on that character. But Absolute Martian is just... It's the kind of thing... I remember cracking it open for the first time and being like, oh, this is what it must have felt like to be, like, reading some of those early Swamp Thing issues or the early, like, Grant Morrison Doom Patrol, and you're just like, oh, this is, like... Yeah. This is cooking. This is going to be a seminal thing. This is going to be a thing that we're going to talk about for, like, years and years and years. This is going to be, like, a decades-long inspirational locus point, and it just keeps getting fucking better too.
This guy came in, I think 2 days ago when Walter was working, and I came in to pick up more of his Marvel comics.
Hell yeah.
He came in and he was, I think he comes in like yearly because he lives in Sacramento, is what he said. But he's like super hardcore speculator type. Like, he was buying all these issues, and Walter and I were like, yeah, like normally if there's like something that we really want to read, but we're like a little behind, we'll buy like the trays and just read it in trade or whatever. And he was like, oh yeah, like, well, I get that, but like, I just like, I like, if I'm gonna read something, like, I just need to have it in an issue. And I was like, oh, okay, like, I respect that. Maybe you just like need to read it month by month. But he was like, he followed it up with like, yeah, because like trades, like, they never appreciate in value. You know, they just like, you buy them and they drop off in value. And I was like, oh, so you're an idiot.
Yeah, you don't like to read the books. This is a whole other thing. We gotta get off the subject. Or I'm gonna do a fucking shit.
He was like, oh, you know what I think is one of the best books on the shelf is Absolute Wonder Woman. And Walter and I were like, yeah, like, it's really good, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, but you know what I think the best thing that DC is putting out right now is Tom King's Wonder Woman.
Get the fuck out! Get the fuck out! Stop!
He was like, it's just like such a good indictment of like social issues today, and like he's getting all these jabs about what's going on in the world, blah blah blah. And Walter and I were like, and then I said, thinking that he would be into it, I was like, yeah, you know what I really like, what we all really like is Absolute Martian Manhunter, and the guy was like, yeah, it's okay.
I'm gonna
and I was just like, I can't talk to you anymore.
I quit, dog. I'm packing it up.
Yeah, but we've talked about how good Absolute Martian is on probably like more than half of the episodes. You guys know how good it is. It's a masterpiece. It's one of the best things on the shelf in the whole store. It's so good.
Yeah. It was my favorite comic of the year alongside Saga the Swamp Thing. Like, and if we're talking about books that came out this year, absolutely, easily clears the best comic of the year. Yeah. What's next for you?
My next one, I'm gonna choose something that's not superhero-y.
Fuck yeah.
My next one is Black Hole by Charles Burns.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Kind of like a seminal. Have you read it?
Yes, and can I tell you my Black Hole story?
Sure.
It's short. It's not long.
Please do. Yeah.
So, I read that book once, and I was 17 years old, about to, like, not far off from coming out as a trans woman, and, like, this small rural Oregon town. I just graduated high school, and there was, like, a cannery in town, right? And to get a job there, you had to line up at, like, overnight at like 3 a.m. You had to be there just like in fucking line until they let you in the morning, and they like did jobs based on some kind of fucking roster lottery system bullshit. I was there in this line reading Charles Burns' Black Hole, and not long after reading that, I remember just kind of like turning over this like, oh, am I trans? Am I going to do this trans thing? And I remember I worked there for like a week. I did get the job, and there was like a smoking area in the parking lot, right? It was like a little, I don't know, little metal cover and a park bench or whatever. And I remember sitting out there, smoking my little cigarette, and I saw all these guys laughing with this person who I don't know for a fact, but I'm pretty sure was a trans woman. And they were just like laughing with her, and like they were like not at her, but with her. Like she was just like hanging out with them, and I like had this insane moment of being like, oh. Like, I can do this. If these fucking, like, small town conservative Catholic guys, and admittedly this is, like, 2014, but, like, are able to just, like, coexist with this trans woman as, like, as an equal or as a friend, like, I can fucking do it. That's my Black Hole story, which is only half of a Black Hole story, but...
So funny. Good for you. Thank you, Charles.
Thank you, Charles, which had really nothing to do with it, but it just reminded me. Thank you for letting me co-opt you for a second.
But yeah, Burns' Black Hole is kind of one of the seminal, great graphic novels. It's kind of his magnum opus. It's the only thing that people really ever talk about from him anymore. It's like a really thick, long, pretty dense graphic novel about teens in a small town as this disfiguring disease that changes people kind of in a similar way to like X-Men Mutations, but like they never get superpowers. You just end up like the mutant with 3 faces from like Morrison's New X-Men or something. It's like maybe you grow a tail, maybe you grow a second mouth or something, and they don't really know how it's transmitted, but they know it's that can be sexually transmitted, and it's like this really meandering, but in a good way, kind of community thriller. And there's a ton of tension in the work, and it is horror, but very much on kind of the psychological side of horror and also on the body side of horror than like the slasher side of horror.
Yeah.
There's very little violence, and when there is violence, it's very much in like someone suddenly throws a punch on the street, or like someone gets like a rock thrown at them or something kind of way. And
or even someone gets like hit with something like a rock and they're like dead in the woods, but it feels so visceral because like it's
just so
rare.
mundane too.
Yeah, it's a little bit like Blue Velvet before Frank comes in. Before like things get like out of hand, and it's like things you just like there's just this ear in the woods and like the ants are crawling on it, and it's like not particularly gory, but it's like, and it just reminded me of that. It's
I do think Lynchian is like perhaps a good description of some aspects of this book. It's a book that feels nerve-wracking for the entire time, but it's also a really beautiful emotional piece of literature about youth and about community, and it doesn't fall into a lot of the kind of traps of disease literature, like an indictment of the stigma of disease or an indictment of the sort of phobia that disease often inspires in people. And it's not even really, I think it'd be really easy but superficial to be like, oh, it's an AIDS metaphor or whatever. Like, it's not it's not a metaphor for anything.
Yeah.
It's just illness.
Yeah, things don't have to be metaphors for things directly.
And I think that's one of the things that makes it most impactful to me. I also think it is a resplendent work of visual art.
Yeah.
It's all in black and white. It is so intricate. It's impossible to not see how much work went into that book. And that's why it's on my list.
That's beautiful. I do need to reread it at some point.
It's worth it.
Hell yeah. Okay, so jump in. Yeah, kind of in the kind of out of the cape space. Actually, a significant amount of my stuff is out of the cape space. I'm going to talk about something I haven't mentioned on any of the podcasts, I don't think, before. Blood of the Virgin by Sammy Harcum. I meant to read this when it first came in years ago in like 22 or 23. I think, but I just like, for whatever reason, didn't get around to it, was like busy something. I think Paul ended up snatching it up, and then it just wasn't in the store for a really long time. But I decided to pick it up because I like kind of read more about it, and it's like this, it feels very like kind of like a Pantheon / Fantagraphics Press kind of book. Like it is like a historical fiction piece about niche art, and it's like also like spanning like wide generational family stuff. We'll like talk about the plot in a second in more specific detail, but it's like hitting all these notes of like what like a big like, yeah, Fantagraphics Pantheon kind of underground comic is supposed to be or look like.
Which is kind of how Black Hole feels, I think, a little bit too. You're like, oh, this is when someone says like Fantagraphics book, that's what it is, but it's not a Fantagraphics book.
Yeah, same with Blood. Yeah, Blood of the Virgin's a Pantheon book, but I kept thinking it was a Fantagraphics, which is like not a bad thing for it to be. Like, I mean, Emil Ferris's My Favorite Things Monsters is literally all of those things, and
so
it's like one of the
Asterios Polyp is another excellent example of Pantheon comics.
Like there are a lot of wonderful ones, but it evokes like a certain idea of like self-seriousness.
It's a hipster comic.
It's a hipster comic a little bit. And I just found it like profoundly moving and like really beautiful and funny. It's specifically about an Iraqi immigrant who's like married to like an Eastern European Jewish woman in 70s Hollywood, and he's like editing shitty like bargain bin like slasher gore pics together for an exploitation flick house, and he's just like churning shit out really fast. And due to like an insane thing that happens where like I think the director for a project goes missing after like a cocaine party, and they never answer why that happened, he gets thrust into like directing his like for the first time, and it just kind of documents this like guy who is like sometimes very decent and like sometimes rarely and very sharply a piece of shit, and like him being a piece of shit feels much more impactful than the usual kind of like underground guys doing comics kind of piece of shit, because he's mostly chill, but it's like the ways that people are realistically pieces of shit, like when pressure happens or like when misogyny can be leveraged to get ahead in something, or when just like you see something that looks maybe a little bit like rape and you don't want to think about that too hard because your boss is doing it, so you just kind of look away. And so the book like is very good in that way. It's also like a really interesting piece about like being an Iraqi immigrant and like an Eastern European Jewish immigrant in the United States in that specific period of time. It's also like a really interesting book about just like I learned a lot about like film editing and just like the kind of like specific market of like exploitation flicks in the 70s from it. It's just also cartooned like a goddamn dream. It's
Sammy Harcum, absolute legend of comics. I feel like that's like all I need to say, honestly. Yeah. Look him up.
Yeah, Blood of the Virgin's incredible. Blood of the Virgin was serialized in his little magazine called Crickets, issues 1 through 8, I believe. Number 9 is the start of something new, and it's just coming in the shop next Wednesday. It'll probably be out by the time you hear this, potentially. So, like, check it out. It's so fucking good. I, like, even halfway into the year, I was like, okay, this is, like, going to be on my list. I love this thing. It's really beautiful. Also, the cowboy shit in there, like, about the old cowboy movies, insane. There's just, like, one chapter that is, like, a complete digression from everything else, and it's about, like, an actor in cowboy cinema. who like used to just be like a like early 1900s like 1920s cowboy cinema, and it just like tracks his career up through the 70s when he dies like a lonely, hateful old man. And just that like little 100 page chunk alone is so fucking gas. And it's like a digression. It's like not even that relevant.
So awesome. All right, I'm gonna stop us here real quick so we can go downstairs.
And if that's one I missed, then I'm not bad.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world.
It's not the end of the world. It's not one of the ones I really want to talk about that much.
All right, we are back. I want to talk about 100 Demons by Linda Berry for my next book. Linda Berry is one of my favorite cartoonists. I love giving her books, especially to the last few people that I've given her books to were kids with parents who were looking for books about how to make comics. Mm-hmm. And often they won't notice the how to make comics, how to draw section in front of the door, mm-hmm. Which I think is a blessing because that section is truly awful.
Yeah, it's not Linda Berry, that's for sure.
But when they walk up and they ask me like, hey, do you have stuff about making comics? I always give them a Linda Berry book because she's both a university professor but also an elementary school teacher. She won a MacArthur Genius Grant for education, but she does all these books about how to draw comics, how to learn comics, how to teach comics that are really kind of revolutionary and against the grain of like how to draw comics the Marvel way, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And are really about like how to draw comics in a way that makes you feel fulfilled and mm-hmm. creative. But 100 Demons is kind of like a fiction memoir novel that she created. Its form is comic strips. So you get these like stories about ostensibly her childhood, but they're phrased as memoir. They're phrased as fiction, and they're about kind of growing up to learn to be an artist, to be creative, growing up with family, surrounded by music and art, but like trying to figure out your own path through that. They're a lot about being Filipino, being a woman. They're just really beautiful comics, and they're created with like incredible watercolor and ink drawing, but with really amazing collage work in the background. I think that's kind of like anyone who is looking for kind of female narrative comics that are not capes, so like not Batgirl or whatever. If you're mm-hmm. just like looking for a comic by a woman about being a woman in kind of the indie realm, this is a book for you. It's kind of like a really refreshing, joyful antidote to like Aileen Kaminsky-Crumb or something, who is great but is like not... Her stuff like is just kind of content-wise so mature and like often like violent that it feels really dark and hard to read sometimes. But Barry's work is often mature and dark, but there's a really underlying joy to her work that I really love, mm-hmm. and that I also think is like a nice antidote to kind of the hipster comics of her contemporaries like Chris Ware or something that are just kind of like so understated mm-hmm. that it's hard to get like an emotional read from the cartoonists creating them.
Yeah.
So that's my next edition is 100 Demons by Linda Berry.
Hi. Linda Berry is one of my big blind spots, but I like a lot of like I'm a big fan of Zoe Thorogood. I'm a big fan of Eleanor Davis. So like I've read a lot of people kind of in her wheelhouse. And every time I see a Linda Berry book, I'm like, God, Jesus, I really got to read her one of these days because I just fucking love what she's doing.
Yeah, I think, if you like Zoe Thorogood, I think Linda Berry is like a great next cartoonist for you to read, would be what I would say.
Tight, yeah. She's definitely on my list at some point. I don't know when, but soon, next
Highly
year or two.
Recommend. Yeah, 2027 maybe.
Maybe, yeah. It's hard to say. I have so many fucking books in my stack. It's impossible.
All right. You're up.
I think. Okay, you know what? I'm going to talk about World Within the World for a second. Speaking of just like really cool women cartoonists, this one's a little bit of a cheat because it technically was on my list last year, but it was only on my list last year because we got a lunar PDF that came out right at the end of the year that I read immediately, and the book itself came out right at the beginning of 2025.
Oh, this is on my list, yeah.
It's so fucking gas. Like, we're kind of going in the exact opposite direction where, like, her work is definitely very bleak, and very silly and very gross. She writes about like sex and violence in ways that are like extremely compelling. And she could be as like gross as her contemporaries or as explicit as her contemporaries, but like significantly more insightful and interesting with what she's doing. And some of them are just fun. Like there's a story in there that's just like what's that fucking guy, Kelsey Grammer? He did that TV show Cheers, and there was something. What was the thing he did? It was the spinoff. Frasier. Thank you, Corinne. Friend of the pod, Corinne, our boss, and just friendo us all. There's a story about Frasier in the apocalypse trying to get back to his studio to like keep doing Frasier shit. But there's also a story in there about the cask of Amontillado as like a glory hole. There's a story in there about like a woman being tortured by like a religious priest and her just being so unbelievably fed up with his like religious monologuing about her, and she's just like, get to torturing me already, just like put the clamp on my cunt, like come on, hurry it up. There's some crazy stuff with like, there's a lot of really good witch stories in there. I have historically bitched a lot about the ways that straight women have been really wanting to do erotic horror lately, and they've all been really bad at it. And Julia Graffor just isn't that. And I don't know if that's because she's queer, although she certainly hangs out with queer people. Like, she's a friend of Gretchen Folker Martin. Her kid is trans, actually, turns out.
I can't believe she did that to her kid.
Transsexualized her kid. Yeah, no, Julia Graffor is great. I think every story in there is, like, bare minimum great, if not, like, actively fantastic. I just think it's a joy to read her cartooning. And I just think she's got the gas. Like,
she looks homosexual.
She does look like a woman of homosexual persuasion. Yeah, Flesh Plus Bone is in there. There's a story about a ghost stealing cum from like a straight couple at one point.
Classic heterosexual comics themes.
Yeah, exactly. There's a drawing that I want as a tattoo that's like a unicorn stabbing itself through the flank.
Oh, wow.
It looks incredible. Yeah,
That's a book that I've been eyeing for a while but have not picked up. But maybe this year, 2026, will be the year that I read it.
You should, and it's also less dense than you'd think it would be. You look at the cartooning and you're like, oh, this is going to be like a project, because it's like, it is kind of like all very like small hand lettering, and it's like very like underground, and it's like very kind of like heavy black inks, and just like it looks like it weighs a lot to look at. It feels like it's going to be like a dense read, and it's kind of not. Like, it's a lot funnier than you expect it to be. It's a lot breezier. There's a story in there about a woman being carried by like some dread bird through a Boschian vision of hell, and being shown to like different like tortures, and she's like, that's not my husband, and they keep flying and they like stop off at different like insane tortures and demons, and she's like, wait, that's not him, no, let's keep going. It's just really good fun, shit. Yeah. I love that fucking book. It was on my list last year, but I just felt it worthwhile to include it here because technically it came out this year and it was so on the razor line.
Okay, I'm gonna bring up two from my list at once.
Cool.
And I think they're both going to be short because we've talked about them extensively on the podcast already. And these are some of the best kind of graphic novel form comics that I read all year, without doubt. But Canon and Stone Fruit.
Canon was on my list too.
By Lee Lai. Both just blew me away. I talked a little bit about Lee Lai in relation to Guillaume
Singelin?
Yeah, Guillaume Singelin's Frontier book, as two cartoonists who both draw comics with a great deal of empathy towards the characters that they're creating, that is really visible on the page. And I think Lee Lai, in contrast to Frontier, Lee Lai's work is really all about paring down what's on the page so that you cannot help but feel really intensely focused and in tune with the characters that Lee Lai is drawing. They're some of the best kind of realistic depictions of queer romance and just relationships that I've ever read on the page. They're so heartbreaking, but also so beautiful at the same time. And I think it's one of the narratives that I've seen myself reflected the most in that I've read this year. And one of the narratives, there's two books, but they're both narratives that I felt the most kind of emptied out by the time that I had finished reading them. Like, I didn't want to pick up another book for the rest of the day after I'd read them. I was just kind of like, there's no more air in my body. Like, I can't engage with anything else. And just the sheer amount of kind of cartooning chops that are on the page of both Stonefruit and Canon is shocking. Her art's incredible. The ability to evoke so much emotion in four panel pages only really speaks to how good the story and art is. I want everyone to read this. I think the world will be a better place. But yeah, it's those are two of my favorites for sure. But we've talked a lot about Levi, so I figure we can talk a bit and then move on. But
I have just like a couple small things to say about it because we've talked extensively. The first is to kind of talk about your point real briefly. Like one point you brought up about like seeing yourself reflected in them is like while that's like not necessarily something I need, I often find myself very fed up with the contemporary landscape of like queer comics.
You didn't like Spectators?
Well, Spectators, first of all, is not a queer comic. As much as Brian K. Vaughan thinks he's radical for frauding with a trans woman. This is hold on. Brian K. Vaughan, I will find you, and I will. I don't know where I was going with that. But the point is, setting aside my distaste for that book. No, like I'm so disillusioned. That was an awful thing you did. I triggered, actually. You got me triggered.
Yeah, I radicalized you.
You properly triggered me. That was like my Winter Soldier catchphrase. Jesus Christ. No, but like I am often very disillusioned with the kind of like quote unquote like queer comics landscape, because a little bit of it feels like, I don't know if I've had this conversation with you, but I fucking hate when people say things like it's fine if they call themselves this, but when they say like they call you like neurospicy.
Oh,
it's like I have autism. I'm an adult. Like you like don't fucking talk about me. Like, don't infantilize me like this. And that's how a lot of like quote unquote contemporary queer comics feel to me. Is I'm just like, this is like cute, but this is unserious. Like, I am 30 or 40 years old and I do not need this. Like, I have been a transsexual for like 11 years and counting. I'm like, you can't be serious. Like, you're not going to hit me with this heated rivalry shit. Get the fuck out of my face.
I personally thought that Greg Rucka's Featherweight was a really beautiful depiction.
We are not touching this. We are not touching this, and I have no opinion on Featherweight, to be clear to the audience. I
think we should start stalking Heated Rivalry comics.
There's no Heated Rivalry comic.
Corinne, when they make Heated Rivalry...
I was about to say, it's Check Please. It already exists.
You're so right.
It exists, and it's a great book with amazing dialogue.
True.
That's the one book on Corinne's list is Check Please.
Actually.
Hell
Beautiful.
But it came out years ago. It was a webcomic.
But yeah, I just like, I feel so... I don't know. I'm just like, that's cute, and if you like these things, that's fine.
But it's not for me.
It's not for me. Yeah. I'm just like, this is just so far... I don't know. It just feels like I'm being talked down to, or that I'm being marketed to, whereas like Levi's comics are about queer adults with like actual substantive queer complex queer problems and like ways of like, how do you build a family as like a trans woman who's never had one before? How do you as like a Chinese butch lesbian in a like mostly white workspace like navigate and in a family like where like men's feelings are prioritized, like how do you navigate your own anger and also anger at other like Asian American queer women who you're friends with who like also don't listen to you and talk down to you in the ways that men do? Like, there's like just an unbelievable level of just like emotional complexity and nuance to the queer lives that Levi portrays, and it's just like, I don't feel represented. I mean, I do, but it's less about representation to me than it is about feeling like I'm just like
it's an
this
acknowledgement that these things are serious. Like, that
Yeah.
you can take these things seriously in a narrative. I think that's like what I'm seeing too, because obviously I'm not reading this book about like a Chinese butch lesbian and being like, oh, that's just like me, you know. But it is like it's nice to see that someone's putting ink on page for a queer story and going like, you know what, like. There's no sparkles in this one, guys. Like,
Yeah.
there's no rainbow.
Yeah.
You know?
This is not how, like...
Here's some rage.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's, like, queer people getting to exist, and we've talked about this separately, like, queer people getting to exist in stories that, like, their queerness absolutely informs the text, but it's not, like, a treatise on like, a lot of these queer things are treatise. God damn it. I don't know why I do this.
You have a mental block
I have
now.
a mental block about this. No, I've had this mental block for a long time, but that's neither here nor there. It's like, I don't like how a lot of these comics feel like they're treatises about, like they're talking to cis people. They're like, hey, just so you know, them faggots, they're people.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this. And I just, like, I don't care, man. I've been living a queer life in queer community for way too long to fucking, like, care about that. Whereas, like, these are just books about, like, queer people living, like, complex, difficult, challenging lives. And, like, they're just so beautifully done. I remember sobbing a lot on the bus in 2023 reading Stone Fruit for the first time, finishing it and just being like, well, that was the year I read Berserk and, like,
Queer classic Berserk.
No, the point is, I read a lot of exceptional, like, all-timer books that year, like Soft X Remind Hunters, Berserk, etc. That book still, even through all of those, like, still stuck with me so fundamentally.
For sure. Yeah, I think that's a little bit of what draws me so intensely towards Simon Hanselman's work too. And although, admittedly, and of course, the difficulties that Simon Hanselman is writing about and the experiences Simon Hanselman is writing about, they're much less common than the stuff that you would find in a Lee Lai book. I mean, Hanselman's stuff is so over the top and so grotesque that you really, if you're reading a Hanselman comic and you're like, damn, that's just like me for real, like, you should get help. And, like, I really hope that you're able to find help, you know, for some of the stuff. Like, I definitely do feel seen in a lot of that stuff. And I have sought help, you know.
Yeah. We've all been...
I am medicated.
Who among us are not mentally ill queers with sexual trauma?
Yeah.
You know?
But similarly, like, those characters, he writes them with, like, a deep amount of respect towards the emotional reality of each of them. And they are so undeniably deeply queer.
Yeah.
But I can't think of a single Hanselman, like, strip or book where that's, like, the central thing.
Yeah.
It's not incidental, because it informs every aspect of these characters, but you're not going to read a book and be like, this is the one where Meg realizes she's not just a lesbian, she's a bisexual, you know? Which is a valid narrative, that's, like, fine, but I do think there's levels to the depth and maturity of these stories, and if you're a queer who's just coming out, maybe you do need a check please or a heated rivalry, you know? Like, I certainly had those.
Yeah.
But I don't need them now, you know?
Yeah. And I do, like, and this is a hobby horse of mine, so I'm just gonna have to keep it really, really, really short. But it's just, like, I am begging you, if you are a queer person who is, like, stuck in reading only YA and only reading, like, cozy course just, like, you don't have to read Simon Hanselman. You don't have to read Gretchen Fokker Martin or, like, Queer Extremity. You don't gotta go into, like, the bonkers shit.
The horrors.
The horrors, yeah, as they are called.
Which we love.
Which we do love. Noted fans of the horrors, us on this podcast.
Friends of the pod, the horrors.
But I am begging you, if you are, like, a queer person out in the world and you are not reading stuff like Lee Lai puts out or stuff that, like, friend of the pod MM Alivas puts out, or just like queer narratives for, like, adults, like, please, I'm begging you, like, don't get stuck in infantilizing yourself forever.
Yeah.
Like, at some point the party is over you have to grow up a little bit. Which doesn't mean you don't have to, like, because Tate and I, noted fans of Adventure Time. We love that shit. We eat that shit up. You don't have to give up the cozier stuff you like. But please, just...
Read Spectators!
I'm going to kill myself.
Yeah, so those are my two. Canon and Spectators by Lee Lai. No, Canon and Stone Fruit by Lee Lai.
Spectators by Lee Lai.
Yeah.
Lee Lai would not think it was radical to fuck a trans woman. I'm throwing this out there. I know for a fact Lee Lai has fucked trans women, and you know what? And Lee Lai has the decency to be like, that doesn't make me fucking special. That's just a normal thing I did on a Tuesday.
Okay, what's your next book?
My next book,
That was so crazy.
That was the way crazier.
I know. I love how I was like, this is gonna be a short one, and then it just was not even a little bit.
No. Okay, I'm gonna talk about technically two books, but they're like inextricable to me, and part of that is because I read them in like one massive psychotic block, this summer when I was like, some things were going on in my life. Friend of the podcast, things going on in my life in the summer of 2025. But it's going to be Vatu and Third Voice by Evan Dom. Last year I read The Last Delivery, which is the Muppets take Franz Kafka's The Castle. It's gas as fuck. It's incredible. It's a book that is so good. I read it and I decided to read every single thing that Evan Dom's ever written. And multiple customers are the same way. I've sold them on The Last Delivery, and they come back like a week later, and they're like, give me everything else you can. So I read his three big fantasy works, Rice Boy, which I'm only not including on this list just because I cannot have three of his fantasy masterpieces on the list. And I'm going to combine Vatu and Third Voice because I read those in one block. Vatu is being re-released by Iron Circus right now. The first of 4 volumes is out now. Third Voice, they're on book 3, which is 800 pages in or something like that. But the first book is available on his website. All of Vatu and all of to date Third Voice are for free on his website, and same with Rice Boy. You should pick up the collected editions because it is a beautiful, some of the best, if not the best, fantasy comics of just since Bone. I would maybe go so far as to say since Bone. And Evan Dom has been doing this for a very long time. Rice Boy started in 2003 or 5 or some shit. It was one of the earliest webcomics. Again, we're not gonna talk about Rice Boy. Vatu and Third Voice are these incredible series of works. One very much focused on this nomadic tribe that gets inducted into a Romanesque empire, and kind of this main character Vatu being sold into slavery and kind of navigating the confines of the empire, and she's kind of going through every facet of the digestive system of the empire, kind of on the 4-book journey that she goes on. And it's kind of this amazing, beautiful book about imperialism and the ways that people are assimilated, and the ways that people in trying to survive end up becoming parts of the machineries of conquest that ensnared them over the course of years and decades. And they all kind of look like little Muppet characters. They all kind of got a little bit of a very fun, very clean...
It's very much like Bone that way. You have this really intense, overarching, huge fantasy story, but they're just little guys.
They're just little guys.
They're just little guys.
The Romans look like little dog guys that you'd see in the gym. Evan Dom cartoons, he's the cartoon, if the Jim Henson Company was made into a funky little guy who made webcomics. All of his characters look like the Jim Henson Company would have had a fucking field day on them. The Roman soldier guys.
Oh yeah.
Are fucking dogs, and are dog-headed people. Vatu is a little almost stone-headed thing.
Cone-headed little dude.
Yeah. And Third Voice kind of similarly is a post... It's sort of post-apocalyptic, but only kind of sci-fantasy, kind of in the ruins of another civilization, kind of building this vast empire. And it's kind of more... rather than being about imperialism specifically, is kind of a little bit more complicated and being about, like... I actually have a really hard time describing Third Voice. It's covering some similar but divergent ground in terms of imperialism, but also kind of more about, like... Oh, no, okay, that's how I describe it. So Vatu is kind of like a empire that is, like, set up, but is still very actively expanding. Whereas, like, Third Voice is like, this empire has existed for a long time in the ruins of another empire, and what does it mean to reckon with the crimes, both in present and past, of this, like, vast kingdom, and also to be, like, marginal poor people on the outsides of it, and, like, what does it mean for, like, map making to be, like, a central economy, like, in the world. Like, he just has this incredible level of, like, specificity and focus and detail on the kind of, like, intricacies of, like, the map sale economy, which sounds dense, but it's not. Like, it's very approachable, because, again, these characters are very, like, in a Jeff Smith kind of way, like, very, like, I don't know, like, Spongel from fucking Third Voice is like, what if there was a guy with kind of a round head, and he had, like, a tiny little elephant trunk, and he, like, drank sometimes, and smoked some cigarettes, yelled some cuss words. He's like, it's very legible, very approachable kind of work about very dense subject matter. I have been noted as saying that Saga doesn't exist without Rice Boy, and you keep reading both Vatu and especially Third Voice, it's just like, Evan Dom is, I think, the person after Jeff Smith that most fundamentally created a language for fantasy comics. But unlike Jeff Smith, he's not known because he's mostly a guy who did, like, web comics about colonialism.
Yeah.
And released a lot of his stuff for free for a very long time. Until this year, we're finally getting reprints. If you haven't read Vatu, the first book of it is out through Iron Circus. There will be 3 more. One of the most beautiful things I read this year. And then Third Voice, which is his follow-up book, also extraordinary. Like, both of these books knocked my socks off. Both of these books have, like, such a, like, deep-seated interest in, like, language and economy, and also just being so unbelievably frustrated as, like, a working-class person navigating, like, these, like, vast, intricate, stupid systems. It's really good. It's beautiful. I love it.
Hell yeah. Okay. I also just read Vatu, Volume 1 this morning. Didn't know it was on your list, but so good. Really excellent. I don't really have more to say because I want to keep reading it before I voice thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you can see the skill that Evan Dom has and is exerting with every page. Incredibly impressive fantasy comics, and just, like, really engaging, even just in the first book. Like, I'm hooked.
Mm-hmm.
My next book, kind of in line with the queer comics that we were talking about, Lolo Woods, which is a lock and key comic. The Lolo Woods is written by one of my favorite writers, Carmen Maria Machado.
Friend of the pod.
God, I wish.
I know.
I hope.
Carmen Maria Machado, call us.
Yeah.
In the Dream House, one of the greatest to ever do it, anyway.
Yeah, you should go read her other books, her memoir In the Dream House, and her short story collection, Her Body and Other Parties. And then it's drawn by, also friend of the pod, Danny. Lolo Woods, I meant to read it for Halloween, for spooky season, and then I just didn't get to it until, like, November, and I read it, and it was incredible. Danny's art is so perfectly suited for this story. Basically, what this is focused on, this is, like, good, queer, blue-collar, working-class narratives about queer women of color, which is similarly true of Lee Lai's work, and is as rare in its quality and subject matter as Lee Lai's work, but it's horror. It's, like, fantasy horror. It's set in a former mining town that was basically environmentally wrecked by this mining corporation. And much like in real life, the mining corporation is trying to pay people off to leave the land, threatening people, trying to get them off the land so that they can't kind of muster a lawsuit. But there's this like whole underlying mystery. These monsters are showing up in the town. No one really knows what's happening. And it's such an engaging character piece that I think it's easy to kind of gloss over how good the environmental writing is. Not the environmentalist writing, which is also excellent, but like the environment that they create, that Machado and Danny create in the book. They just kind of, they create this world that feels so inhabitable to a reader that you just kind of get swept away in the story. And I really don't know what else to say. I think it's a book that I would like to come back and read again. Yeah. Just because there's so much going on and the art is so excellent. Even though it's like a relatively short trade paperback length, it's not a very long comic. And it ties up so well. It really sticks the landing. And it's one of those horror books that from the first page, much like, I think like Tinian's Nice House on the Lake or something, like from the first page, you are hooked. Yeah. You're so intrigued. And I kind of almost like don't want to talk anymore about it, because I think you should come at it as freshly as possible with this book. But it's really excellent. It was the fourth thing that I wrote while I was thinking about this list, so it was top of mind. It's really, really solid. I don't know. I haven't read any more of like the Lock and Key universe comics, although I do want to read the kind of what's Stephen King's son's name who like started the world?
Joe Hill.
Joe Hill, thank you. I do want to read the like original big chunk of Joe Hill run on Lock and Key, because I've heard it's really good.
Oh yeah, so they are two separate things. Is like he had Lock
like
and
Joe
Key.
Hill comics.
Yeah, he was calling it Hill House.
Hill House, thank you.
Yeah. Most of them I wasn't that interested in, with a couple of exceptions.
Yeah.
But
this is excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, come read it. It's really good.
Yeah. I no details or anything, but that fourth issue with the witches story in the sanitarium.
Yeah.
Got me so fucking good, dude. I cried so hard. It was God, I like remember burning through it in just like one afternoon. I was like gonna read like an issue or two. The fact that I even remember that specifically years out from reading it, I was like gonna read just like one or two, and then I burned through it and I wept on my couch. It's
such a page turner. Yeah, it's really just bravo, honestly. And
if you're a person who's like turned off by horror, or like if you like think that like it's going to be, you're like a person who's like a little cautious about horror, I think it is a good horror comic, but it's also not like super grisly.
Yeah, it's like a fantasy comic as much as it is a horror comic, you know.
It's approachable.
It's spooky.
Yeah.
It's spooky, but it's not horror, is what I would say.
It's kind of actually similar to Nice House on the Sea / Lake, like that, where it's like there are scenes and moments that are horror, there's elements of it that are horror, but it's like not, it's like a little bit more,
it's not about scaring you.
Yeah, it's not about scaring you.
Yeah.
There's like some scary images, but those are more to speak on, to like enhance the themes and world and texture of the piece. Yeah. Beautiful book.
What's next on yours?
All right, going in kind of an opposite direction, Dead Horses, by Freya JN. We talked about it a little bit on this podcast. It was part of Shortbox. They're going on a break next year, which is good for them. I'm glad they're taking a break for themselves. That said, huge bummer, because Shortbox regularly puts out some of the coolest shit in comics all year. And honorable mention to this book called Bogado, which is like an insane Doctor Strange, if done by Jim McCann riff. That's fucking insane. It's so good. It's in my honorable mentions, but that was from Shortbox. Dead Horses by Freya JN is like an 80-page like there's a when I say lesbian cat girl witches, that implies like a certain kind of like cutesy bullshit. That's like fine. But like that's not what this is. Like they are lesbian cat girl witches, but in the kind of way where they like will like skin you and feed you to the house without depth, to like the boar's head at the bottom of the stairs in the basement, and like hang your spine up on the chain to like grant wishes. Like it's pretty insane shit. It's like lesbian cat girl witches doing Stalker, specifically the like Tarkovsky thing about like trying to find a haunted house that will give you a wish. It is also an insane book on time. Anyway, I'm getting too deep into it, but the point is like it accomplishes in 80 pages what books spend hundreds of pages trying to do, both in terms of just like being just like a wildly engaging piece of like gay horror fiction, as well as just like an exceptionally well crafted piece of like visual art. Like when similarly to what we talked about earlier, it's like violence is not constant, but when it happens it feels hideous. There's like there's an attack like partway through the book that feels fucking awful, and it's like not even particularly gory in what it shows you, but it's like just so masterfully staged and framed and like placed in like a vacuum of like on-screen violence that it's just incredible. And like the imagery is just unbelievable. Like a very early image is like shooting the wrong horse in the head, and that horse is like on fire, and it like follows them through a bunch of the narrative, just kind of like watching from a distance. Freya J.N. is just like an extraordinary cartoonist, and I'm glad that her work's finally getting in print, because I need to buy like 3 copies of it, because it's just fucking gorgeous. Tate, I will send you a PDF of it later if you want.
I was gonna say you should send that to me, because I'll read it in a day.
Yeah, it's a decently quick read.
It sounds awesome. I mean, I've heard you talk about it before. It like kind of rocketed up to the top of my list when I heard you talking about it, and then Shortbox ended, and I was just like, oh well, hope they print it.
Yeah, that is the bummer town about Shortbox. That said,
but
like,
yeah, please send it to me.
I will.
Yeah, that sounds so good. God, what should I talk about next? I'm gonna talk about something back in the world of capes, maybe.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. I lied. I'm gonna talk about Black Cohosh by Eagle Valiant Brosi.
Oh, tight. Okay.
Which I've talked a little bit about, I think, on one of our earlier episodes of the podcast. I reviewed it on the Comics Journal, so go read that if you want like an in-depth review of it. Did I review it on the Comics Journal?
I don't think you did on the Comics Journal.
No,
I think someone else did. But
I
think
review it on the Comics Journal. No,
you briefly talked about it on an early episode.
Yeah.
Before we had our billions of fans.
It is, I think, one of the most formally kind of avant-garde pieces of literature that I read this year, period, across comics and prose and visual art, just like kind of generally. I had this thought kind of when I was reading it, but like I do think if you want to find like the forefront of American experimentalism in literature right now, comics is like a good place to start.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in some ways Black Cohosh by Eagle Valiant Brosi is one of those pieces of gold that you might find. It's another work of kind of autofiction, I guess is what I would call it, about this kid who grows up in this kind of hippie commune farm type of thing, in which sort of several couples and a couple families live, and the main character is also named Eagle, I think, and he has like a severe speech impediment, and the whole book is the whole book, Eagle is unable to speak in a way that you as the reader or most of the characters can understand him. His lettering is just squiggles, so there's no words that come out of his mouth. It's just
but he is like speaking, and he's
speaking, and he's trying to communicate. And his mom is the only one who can like really understand him. And the only other book that I've seen where kind of the character whose point of view you are experiencing a narrative through cannot speak a language that other people understand is a book called In the Distance by Hernan Diaz, who is really famous for his second novel, Trust, which I think won a Pulitzer or something. But In the Distance is similarly like someone who has been deprived of human interaction for a long time, like can't speak to other people because he doesn't know the language of people in the U.S. He's an immigrant who lived super isolated. And it really changes the way that you're able to interact with a character when their spoken language is not something that you can understand. And you're also deprived of like a really explicit inner monologue. And I think it's kind of a mark of Valiant Brosi that Eagle in the book is one of the characters that I empathized with and felt for the most of anyone that I've read this year. Like, you have this really, really deep connection to this character who you linguistically cannot understand. And he's surrounded by a lot of ugliness, but also a lot of beauty and love at the same time. And it never uses panels, really, in the book. Each page is, like, at max kind of 2 tableaus, maybe, of these characters kind of, like, floating in space in this environment that's, like, solely black and white line art. And so there's a really fluid, almost kind of stream of consciousness or, like, temporal stream to the way that the narrative takes shape in the book. It's not dreamlike, but it feels very much like you are walking through the story, watching it happen, rather than kind of like looking at a story in a second dimension as a 3-dimensional person. And it's just really beautiful. It's like a masterclass in how to do kind of weird comics, you know, if you're like, I want to do something you've never seen before. Go read Black Cohosh, because that's like a good primer for that. It's a big, hefty book too. Like it's like really beautiful as kind of an object on your shelf. I don't know. I'm just a fan.
That's on my list now.
You should read it. You'd really like it.
It was like it was like one of those like, oh, it's like a Drawn Quarterly book, I'm sure I'll like it, but I'll like, I don't know, like I got a lot of this stuff going on, so I didn't approach it when it first came out. But there's a lot of books that I have really liked, like similarly with Blood of the Virgin, where it was like, oh, that looks cool, yeah, I'll get around to it, and then I didn't, and then I did this year and I loved it. So I imagine
this is not your standard Drawn Quarterly fare, is what I would say.
That rocks. Okay.
Yeah. It feels pretty out there for Drawn Quarterly, although I do love Drawn Quarterly.
Yeah, no shade to Drawn Quarterly.
It just feels kind of like left of center from their usual roster, which was pretty cool. It was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, no, I like that they do that. Like, I like what they do, and then also being a field of that. And yeah, no, that's higher up on my list than it had previously been before. I'd been piqued, my interest was piqued the first time you brought it up, but now I'm like, oh, this is like really like something I fuck with.
Awesome. Well, yeah, that's mine. What's your next one?
This is one. So this is going to be 2. One of them you've read, one of them I don't think you have yet. But I just combined New Gods and Resurrection Man, because similarly, I think they feel very both divergent and of a piece with each other. And also, I feel like Resurrection Man got very overshadowed by New Gods.
That's top. Resurrection Man is top of my to read list at home. Yeah.
Tight. So I won't say too much about it to not. It kind of feels like both Rom V doing like the classic Vertigo thing of like, we're gonna take this relatively forgotten DC character and we're gonna do something like interesting and fucking bonkers with it, which is just like, can Resurrection Man escape the wheel of samsara? but also it feels very in line. It feels like the weird older brother or kind of distant uncle to like Layla Starr in an odd sort of way. And in a way that's like not immediately apparent until you read it. Without wanting to spoil it, because I don't want to spoil it for you, there's some... The DC Universe characters that are included are very weird, off-the-wall choices and very interesting and very well-utilized ones in completely different ways. I think it's really smart and really beautiful. I think Anand RK is just going fucking sicko mode on the art on that one. Like, again, like everything that's happening in New Gods and with Evan Kagel is just like spectacular and amazing. We'll talk more about that in a second. But Anand RK is just like working in this genre of cartooning that I can only kind of really think of like Bhanu Pratap, Dear Mother and other stories, and there was and Cutting Season. I didn't like Dear Mother very much, but Cutting Season was spectacular. Of kind of this like very spongy kind of like cartooning where characters are kind of like noodly and tentacly like folding into themselves, and like Banu is like definitely like more exaggerated with it, I think, than Anand RK is like kind of a little bit more realistic, as in like massive quotations here, because it's very expressive. But the cartooning is just absolutely spectacular. He's worked with Ram V on a number of projects before, and this just feels like perfect creative synthesis in the way that like Ram V working with Felipe Andrade for Rare Flavors and Layla Starr feels so perfectly in lock sync. One could argue that New Gods is better. Arguably, it is certainly more popular and more accessible. But Resurrection Man is, and the covers are way better. Resurrection Man's covers were like okay, but like the interiors were astonishing. But yeah, I think it's a spectacular book, and I think if you are reading what Ram V and Evan Kagel are doing on New Gods and are like, I love this and I want something like just as insane but like in a much more like personal and intimate way, Resurrection Man is your bet. And do we have anything we want to say about New Gods? I know we've another book kind of similarly to Martian we've talked about a lot on this podcast.
Yeah, I was almost going to bring up like New Gods and Absolute Martian in the same breath and just be like, yeah, they're really good, guys. We talked about them a lot. Read them, you know? They're just excellent. That's all I have to say, because just go listen to other episodes that we've done. Honestly,
similarly, I feel Assorted Crisis Events was on my list. I feel the same about that. I feel like we can scratch that off now and just be like, look, you've heard us talk about it. Yeah. You might even be reading it. Just go read it.
Yeah. And if you haven't listened to any of the episodes that we talked about it, just take our word for it. You should just read it. It's really good.
Yeah.
The next thing I want to bring up is Processing 100 Comics That Got Me Through It by Tara Booth.
Yes.
This is easily one of my favorite comics that I read this year. This probably is in my top 10. This is definitely one of, if not the favorite of the kind of indie comics that I've read this year. I think the only reason that I'm not just like, this is my favorite indie comic I've read this year is because I read it at the beginning of this year or something, so it's kind of like my intensity of my enjoyment of it has faded a little bit.
Yeah.
But this similarly was like another comic that I read where I was just like, this is some of the most kind of formally out there storytelling that I've seen in kind of any genre. But it's also, and these two things don't normally go hand in hand. This book is also so funny. It is laugh out loud hilarious. You can pull almost any page from the book and think, wow, that's the funniest thing I've read this year, you know? It's a memoir comic painted in this really, really loose kind of childlike style by Tara Booth, who's kind of been, she's never really like had a true moment in the spotlight until Processing, and even then it's like been pretty toned down in the way that indie comics and indie cartoonists spotlights normally are.
Yeah, the kind of you know shit.
Yeah, exactly. But this is kind of a memoir told in like a whole bunch of little vignettes / personal essay memoir kind of things, and they're all about like depression and sex and drinking and all of the sad stuff that comes with that, but also like all of the funny stuff that comes with being like a horny, depressed, drunk person, you know? And they're so bright and so playfully made that when she kind of hits you with something really emotionally effective and like kind of really deep and occasionally kind of heavy, it hits all the more intensely, but it never feels overwhelming or crushing or anything. It's just very it just feels rewarding more than anything else, I think is how I would describe it, because you're having a really great time and then you kind of realize that she's saying something really poignant and beautiful, and fundamentally I think like really joyful about what she experiences in life. I did review this one for the Comics Journal, and I kind of described it as a book about becoming and what it means to be a person who is always becoming. And I think that's kind of the best way that I would sell this book is it's just about how we evolve and how we exist in relation to our past, but most deeply how we exist in relation to our present, and what it means to be a person, and how that is kind of intrinsically not a static state, but a very dynamic one. And this similarly is, I think Tara Booth is queer. There's queer stuff that happens in this book, but it's similarly like not really interested in that. It's way more interested in kind of just this notion of dynamism, and queerness really folds into that well, because I think queer is such an inherently like fluid living concept. And I don't know, this was a book that I had some of the most fun with of anything that I've read this year. I just put this book down and thought, wow, that was an amazing time. I wish I could do that again, you know? So go read that. I'm begging you, read that, especially if you're feeling down or sad, or if you're just going through something or feeling shitty about yourself for whatever reason. This is a really good book to pick up and be like, I'm gonna have a laugh, I'm gonna maybe have a little cry, and I'm gonna be more okay with the person I am now and with the person that I might be becoming than I was before I picked this up. Beautiful work.
Incredible. To pivot in the exact opposite direction, this was a book that was on... Apologies, I left for a second. This was a book that was not in my top 10, but was in my honorable mentions, called Comfortless by Miguel Villa. If you want to feel fucking dog shit about yourself, if you're looking out at the world and you're thinking like, man, I want to have a bad time, you remember what it felt like in like 2020? I've been noted to say on this, or actually I think I said this before the podcast, but like there's very, very, very little good pandemic literature. Like that is like things that are about or set in the pandemic, very little good stuff. It's like Crisis Zone and Dog Biscuits, and that's kind of it. Miguel Villa relishes in human ugliness in a way that, like, with an honesty that you'd get from like Mike Leigh, but is like a lot more rancid than Mike Leigh usually goes. Not every story in this hit for me, but when it does hit, it hits like fucking crazy. It hits like a truck. It's kind of this intersecting series of stories about these people living in Italy during 2020, and these like weird intersecting like fucked up straight people friend groups, and like one of the stories in here is about this woman who's like trapped and lonely during the pandemic, and she gets really angry seeing a masked jogger go by her house every day, and so she starts throwing things at him until it becomes of like increasing severity, until she accidentally blows off his toe, and it becomes a minor war in the neighborhood between them while everybody's supposed to be in lockdown. There's a crazy like mass shooting story in there. Like, It's a lot. It's definitely like a lot of like human cruelty and ugliness. Not all of it works, but I think it's very effectively told if you're in the mood for that. The cartooning is utilizes a fuck ton of white space. Like panels will often float in like vast seas of white space. He utilizes grids a lot, but also will like completely destroy the grid to have like panels that are circles and squares and little signs like floating in space. It's very readable, it's very legible where to draw your eye, but he is playing a lot with that space, and kind of making you feel like alienated and isolated and kind of like somehow more trapped with these people that almost none of them in this book I would want to spend any more than 5 minutes with.
That sounds awesome.
But it's fucking great. If you're a sicko, like who just likes reading about shitty people told very, very well, this book is really good. Similarly, I'm not going to talk much about it because it's not on my list and I didn't read it this year. He did a book called Milky Way that we initially didn't get into the store because Corinne and I saw the cover and it's like this woman with these like massive, massive breasts and it was called Milky Way and we were like, okay, we're not going to order this. This looks like ass.
So funny.
And my friend Charisma was like, hey, actually, you should check out this book. It's called Milky Way. And I was like, that's crazy, dog. But you know what? You recommended it to me. I'll check it out. This was like 23, I think. And I read it and I was like, oh, this is like a shockingly good book about like a woman who with like large breasts who's like kind of put in this position of like kind of being pimped out, but also using that to manipulate this man into like giving her it's like very ugly stuff, but it's like very largely very, very good and very, very thoughtful.
That's so crazy.
It feels like Crisis Zone is what it feels like.
You judged the Mommy Milker book by its cover.
I did. You know what? I did judge the Mommy Milker book by its cover, and you know what? I was wrong.
Shame
I was
on
wrong. You know who
Shame.
else judged books by their cover? Conservative Christians.
Yeah.
I guess that makes me a fucking Baptist.
You're just like Charlie Kirk.
I'm just like... We are Charlie Kirk. My neck kind of hurts a little bit. Not to put a shot across the bow here.
Oh my god.
We're leaving that in. Fuck them.
I think we'll stop it here for now. Maybe we'll finish up Wednesday morning when we do the new episode.
Tight. Yeah, I think we've got...
Okay, for those of you listening at home, there's no temporal change, but for us it's 2 days later, new comic book day. We're recording episode 11 of the regular pod. It's February 4th, 2026. But before we start that, we're going to finish up the annual. So we've got only a few titles left. I'll do a brief mention and then do one that we should talk about a little more extensively. But I read the first big third of a chunk of Grant Morrison's Doom Patrol last year. And it was really good.
Yeah.
It was just very fun. I'll probably bring it up more when we do annual number 2 for 2026's annual.
Yeah.
Because I haven't finished the run, but I just feel like Morrison's doing a lot of wacky stuff in the run that I really like. That is kind of not on full display in a lot of their other stuff, like Invisibles or their more serious work. Like Doom Patrol is weird, wacky, goofy Silver Age stuff, but with like an intellectual spin on it, which is really fun.
Yeah.
Like the Brotherhood of Dada and stuff is like it's just a good time.
Yeah. It's a seminal run, I think very similarly to Alan Moore's Swamp Thing. It's kind of a thing that like people talk about being very good, but like kind of gets pushed to the wayside. I think Doom Patrol is kind of Morrison's Saga of the Swamp Thing in a certain regard. Similarly, read the Rachel Pollack run next year because that shit is so gas and may even be as good as.
Well, I have to read it in the next like month or something because I have to give my omnibus to Casey for her class.
Oh, yes.
But I have to be able to like talk about it with her. So I'm going to finish the Morrison run in like the next week and then read all of the Pollack stuff.
I'm very excited.
I'm so jealous that she gets to like... I was looking at the syllabus and like it was crazy reading the words Doom Patrol Omnibus on a syllabus. Like it's crazy reading the word omnibus on a collegiate syllabus is I was flabbergasted.
God willing, where were these cool classes when I was in undergrad?
Yeah, and it's like a trans film and media class too. So it's not like, oh, it's a comics class that happened to have some gas on it. It's just like a bunch of cool stuff. So be on the lookout for when we discuss that. I'm really excited to like tear through all of that. That's the next omnibus I have to read. Because I'm gonna do Catwoman of East End. Although maybe I'll switch it up and do Rachel Pollack Doom Patrol first. Anyway, yeah.
They flow really well into each other.
Grant Morrison Doom Patrol, just really good. Very different from the next Morrison title that's on my list. Morrison is present a couple times on my list. I think just twice. But I read all of their Batman this year. Just really another one that's just really good. I feel like this is an excellent example of Morrison's era of British invasion writers sort of writing really intelligent, really, really compelling, high-minded superhero comics without thinking that you need to kind of destroy what makes them superheroes in order to make it smart.
Yeah, they're not deconstructivists.
Yeah, it's very anti-Watchmen in that sense, because it really is Grant Morrison, rather than Alan Moore being like, okay, in Watchmen I'm gonna take these superheroes and I'm gonna drag them into the dirt and like say this is what would happen if actual human individuals were superheroes and it's ugly. Morrison is saying, okay, I'm going to take Batman to the extreme. Batman is what happens when a man is an unstoppable concept.
Yeah.
And they nail it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think really, like, the whole run is really excellent. I mean, I think whenever Morrison is on, barring the kind of the stuff that they've been having Morrison do now with, like, Deadpool, Batman Deadpool or whatever, like whenever Morrison's put on like a mainline central title for one of the big two, I think they kill it. Like Morrison JLA is another one that I read this year that was just so good and should be on the list but isn't, just because the list is finite.
Yeah, you can only put so many things.
But the stuff in that Batman run that really stands out to me, and the stuff that really shows that Morrison is excited to write Batman, and the stuff that really shows that Morrison really loves Batman rather than kind of looks down on Batman, is the Frank Quitely Batman and Robin stuff.
Yeah, peak of the run.
It's just everything that we talk about as being exciting in the Matt Fraction Jimenez Batman that's been going out right now, which we're going to discuss on episode 11, and which we have discussed on prior episodes as well. All of that is like so informed by the Quitely Morrison Batman and Robin stuff.
Yeah.
From the dynamic, really filmic action layouts to the really thoughtful, really emotional father-son writing.
Yeah.
All of that stuff is really, really present in the Morrison Quitely stuff.
Yeah. And
Quitely's art on it is just so freaking good too. Yeah, I can't really say enough about the Batman stuff. I think if you are not a fan of when Batman does kind of like trippy universe shit, you're probably not gonna like this. I feel like a lot of the comments that are negative about this Batman run are like, oh, it's too smarty pants or whatever. But a lot of it is like pretty just like classic Batman stuff. There's like a little bit of like when Final Crisis kind of seeps into the Batman run. That is, I think, the weakest part of that run.
Yeah.
Because it dilutes the sort of centrality of Batman's character in the run. But even that stuff is pretty freaking solid.
Yeah.
And then all like the Batman Inc. stuff, all the like Death and Return of Bruce Wayne stuff, all of that's just like really good classic Batman comics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And kind of to your point earlier about both... Grant Morrison's Batman does a really interesting thing where, like, most of it is that, like, very, like, Batman... Like, Bruce Wayne is a concept. He is, like... Because a lot of people like to complain about that kind of, like, Batman is, like, the detective.
Like,
is
ultimate plot armor Batman. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, like, most of the time it is bad, but when Morrison does it, it's, like, it's not because, like... he's like a plot armor, like coolest dude ever. It's because he's like,
It's because he's freaking Batman.
yeah, he's like an archetype. He's
Yeah.
he's a living idea made flesh. But then you get the kind of flip of that where in Batman and Robin, Dick and Damian are so human and so like Dick and Damian are not concepts. They are just
they
guys.
bring out the human in Bruce Wayne,
and they bring out the human in Bruce
Yeah.
Wayne, yeah. And so it's like,
but not in a way that's like termed as negative. Because I do think like a lot of those Batman stories that treat Batman with like just too much plot armor in a way that's boring. Like I think Tom King's Batman is an example of this, where like whenever the Robins are like humanizing Batman, it becomes this like point of contention in the story that like blows up the whole Bat family, because Batman's like, you're making me a worse Batman. But in the Morrison stuff, it's just like, no, like that's part of him, that's part of his strength, and that's part of the Robin's strength too.
yeah.
Is their ability to love and care for one another and fight alongside each other. Yeah, that's like, it's a run that is not tinged with irony. At all.
It's an extremely earnest run.
Yeah.
It's not winking. It's not like, it is clever, but it's not clever with a capital C. It's simultaneously like a very down to earth human run while also being like insanely high concept, but in a very like pulp oriented direction. Like the Morrison's kind of thesis of like everything that has ever happened is true, or everything that's ever happened in a Batman comic is true in some capacity. And like that's a really fun concept to play with, is like, how do you square, it's like, it's not like Morrison's not setting it up like a puzzle box of like, how do I incorporate every single aspect and like make it work perfectly. It's like, no, Morrison's like, yeah, you know, once upon a time Batman had a crazy vision where he was a zebra man and he lived that, and it informs who he is, you know, because he's just like this idea. It's a good fucking run, and
Yeah.
like the art is routinely, broadly speaking, very beautiful on it. Yeah, good stuff. Very seminal for me.
What's next on your list?
One thing I'm going to talk about, I'm going to jump a tiny bit here to this book called Little Visitors and Other Abductions. It probably would have landed on my top 10, but I think the third of the three stories like was slightly weaker than the rest in a way that allowed some other things to kind of usurp it. That said, Little Visitor and Other Abductions is absolutely on my like 15 or 20. Really, really good. Really interesting that there were three different kind of like alien abduction books that came out this year, where like alien abductions were like really central to it. Little Visitors and Other Abductions by Adam Sissom, Holy Lacrimony by Michael DeForge, and another book we're going to talk about, Hobtown Mystery Stories, The Secret of the Saucer. Some of it seems very like, you know, why is abduction like a you know, such a present concept these days? Seems very obvious of a question, but all of these were things that were written years before the current, like,
Yeah.
especially Little Visitors, because this is a thing that's collecting like stuff from the last like multiple years. Little Visitors and Other Abductions is like, comics rarely scare me. The first two stories in this are scary. Like, there's bits in here that are fucking scary.
Interesting.
They're like very like historically oriented. Like the first one is like the behind the scenes of a Soviet ripoff of E.T. and like someone interviewing all of the people who are on that set, and it all culminating into like this child's disappearance, which is not really a spoiler. It's like something they tell you very early on. And then the second story about being this like little girl and her dad. They're both Mexican American in the 50s, and they like break down on the side of the road, and the dad goes towards this weird rich person house up in the hills to try to figure out what's going on, and he doesn't come back.
Whoa.
And so she goes to check it
stop.
out. Yeah, we'll stop.
You're terrible about spoilers.
This is just the setup of the book. That's like the first two pages. That's the premise. Anyway, sorry, I do like talking about things too much. I really like this book. I think the cartooning is really good. Like, it's really scary at times. I really, really like this book. I don't have a ton more to say about it at this moment. That said, I was going to try to pitch an essay to the Comics Journal that if anybody else wants to run with, they are welcome to, because I just don't have that kind of time, about the different ways that that Secret of the Saucer, Holy Lacrimony, and Little Abductions like take alien abductions and like what they do with that. I would love to see someone do that because I think they're all doing very different things with it. But yeah, this book, incredible. Kind of slipped under the radar. It's an Oni press book, which is weird. It's not the kind of thing Oni publishes.
Yeah, it's unusual for contemporary Oni, for sure.
It's like, it's weird and it's gross and it's frightening and it's not marketable in a traditional sense. Which I love. I love that they're doing
that's
that.
your thing, very much.
Yeah.
Let's see. What do I have left? I think the only thing that I actually really want to talk about that's left on the list.
Wait, is it still going?
Yeah, I'm recording right now.
Oh, you're recording.
Yeah. I think the only thing that I really want to talk about still, from this year, I guess I'll quickly mention Mark Waid's two kind of big titles from this year, which is Batman Superman World's Finest and then Justice League Unlimited, which are both Mark Waid, Dan Mora titles that are just really, really good. They're not masterpieces, but they're on the list just because they are, by and large, just really excellently done.
Mm-hmm.
But the only thing that I really want to talk about extensively that's left is Superman Kryptonite Spectrum.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
By Maxwell Prince and Martin Morazzo. And I think a lot of the stuff that we were just talking about with Grant Morrison's Doom Patrol is really on display in Kryptonite Spectrum. I think in a similar way to how we were talking about how influential Saga of the Swamp Thing is and how you can see Saga of the Swamp Thing's influence on contemporary comics, and also all the best stuff in Vertigo. I do think that Morrison's Doom Patrol is really a glaring, glowing influence on Kryptonite Spectrum
and their Batman run too, the Batmite stuff.
Oh yeah,
and All Star for that matter.
Yeah,
huge Morrison acolytes.
Yeah, so Morrison's willingness to do all of the wacky, weird stuff that seems really childish, but is also kind of at the same time really interesting from a kind of science fiction perspective, is kind of picked up and run with in Kryptonite Spectrum, because they're what if we, I think the kind of central premise is what if we took all of the weird, wacky Silver Age stuff but took it kind of artistically and thematically seriously.
Yeah.
And they pair it with such good art and such excellent, weird, often experimental layouts that it just works really well. We've already talked about it a lot, so I don't think we need to talk about it a ton anymore, because that we really like it. But that was a book where I was this needs to be on the list just because it stands out so much.
It absolutely does. I really loved that book. I was caught off guard because, again, I tend to respect Ice Cream Man more than I consistently like it. And I think what that maybe comes down to, now that I think about it, is that their sensibilities, I don't think the two of them are mean enough for horror consistently. Even though, I respect everything that they're doing tremendously. Again, we don't have a Sword of Crisis events without these guys, proving that there is a market for, single issue anthology stories, and that can be that are formalistically experimental. I do think, however, that their sensibilities are just laser precise perfect for doing an incredibly earnest, very openly silly Silver Age riff that is also shockingly heartfelt. They
it's
really
very emotional.
They find a lot of people like to imitate Morrison, and they often are just kind of what if we do a high concept thing? And it's okay, but they often miss the warmth and how funny a lot of Morrison's comics can also be. And that's these two get that. Morazzo and Prince really do understand how just I don't know, I just everything with the mites and everything with Superman's divorce.
Yeah, at its heart, this is very much kind of a silly riff on the breakup story. It's really good. It's really fun. I'm excited for it to be collected. because I think it'll read really well in collection. But it was a book that I kept the issues of because they're just so fun in issues, and they're a really excellent masterclass on how to write a series in the form of an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have like a ton more to say about it because we've talked about it so much, but Superman Kryptonite Spectrum, really good.
That's fantastic.
I think that's it for me. The other two things that I wanted to mention really briefly were Jeff Smith's Bone, which I reread in its entirety, and then Hellblazer by Jamie Delano and Garth Ennis, which I should talk about more extensively, but I think we should talk about next time when you finished rereading the whole thing.
Yeah,
because it's just really excellent.
Yeah,
it's incredible. I don't know.
Yeah,
what a triumph of comics.
Yeah, I'll throw this out very briefly. Is just that this Hellblazer was like a very central route for me. I read it when I was like 13. I read everything up through like the Diggle run, basically. I think I stopped at like early Diggle, but like, but yeah, Delano and Ennis's Hellblazer in particular were huge roots for me. I'm revisiting all of Delano's Hellblazer now, including some stuff that I hadn't gotten a chance to read yet. So we'll talk more about it later. But yeah, like nobody did it like Delano. And similarly, like we've talked about very briefly, like 60% of Garth Ennis projects are questionable at best, but those 40% like make everything forgiven because he is just like one of the great character writers that we've had in like modern contemporary comics. Very few people are able to do it like him, and Hellblazer is a perfect display of that. So we'll talk more about that later. But yeah, big fans. Friend of the pod, John Constantine.
I don't know that I want to be John Constantine's friend. His friends meet terrible ends.
No, that's why he's friend of the pod, not friend of us. The abstract concept of the pod.
The ontological pod.
We're gonna have a like fucking Alan Moore, Azareo, Delano situation where we see Hellblazer, or we see John Constantine pop up at some point. It's gonna go that would be.
It's feeling avant-garde in here again.
It's feeling very avant-garde. Okay. A lot of things are. I'm just gonna like do mostly honorable mentions from here with a couple of very small exceptions. Monkey Meet the Summer Batch. I talked about it a lot on the podcast already, but just like I just think Junie Baugh is one of our great working cartoonists. I just love to see whatever he's doing, like. Anything that he's doing, even his weakest project, even his like random covers of like Ninja Turtle shit, I'm just like, I'm happy you're here doing what you do. Like every project he touches just has so much heart and warmth. He knows how to write YA comics that respect their readers. He knows how to write more adult oriented comics. I just think he's a cool fucking dude. Friend of the pod, Junie Baugh. So that's all I'll say about that. And then I'll talk briefly. It was the first thing I read at the beginning of 2025 was Hagai Palavesky's 2024 comics bundle. He would just like hit up random artists and do like 6 to 10 page short comics. He did one with Anna Bao about like it was like a sci-fi one about just like singing aliens out on the edge of time. There was one he did with Roger Landridge that was like taking the absolute piss out of like like Chester Brown like jerk off comic guy, but like at a convention. He did a good one of that. All of those are really good. You can find them for like $5 on itch.io. He's consistently working with like really good artists to do like formally ambitious stuff. He recently did one that's not in that collection. That's like he asked a bunch of people to send him photos of their refrigerators in their homes.
Oh,
and all of the panels are like drawings over these different pictures of people's refrigerators. He's just consistently doing really cool, really interesting stuff. Love that. And he's doing really good writing for the Comics Journal, for Soul Rad, for anyway, that's kind of the last two big ones, but I want to just do some quick honorable mentions. Absolute Wonder Woman, gas as fuck. So good. Wonderful. We love to see it. Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, Rite of Spring. I liked the first one a lot. I loved it, and I
when I heard there was a sequel, I was like, I don't know what else there is to say about it, but I don't know. I've talked about it on the show, so I won't reiterate too much. But yeah, it's a way smarter book than it really has any right to be as a book about like murderous, like cute animals.
Yeah.
It's never being like, it's never a book that is just like, oh man, isn't it fucked up that cute animals do violence? It's like a very serious, thoughtful book about like the passage of time, and also a book where like animal people get cut up in really heinous ways. Hobtown Mystery Stories, The Secret of the Saucer. Really loved this one. Hobtown Mystery Stories, if you're looking for like David Lynch's Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew, that's the exact vibe of it. It's so good. This one is told like in reverse order because like the people's in the town, their memory gets like fucked up and time starts going backwards, and their like ability to like speak is also gets fucked up, and their words turn out wrong. It's a very fun, formally ambitious book. It's also a book where like you see like weird old Nazis in a bathtub, like naked in a bathtub with a pistol, like monologuing about insane bullshit, and there's like glowing gorillas in the woods. It's a very fun book. We talked about Tongues. I don't know. It's on the New York Times. You can go read about it there. Good book though. The Fables of Earl King Wood, which is Junie Baugh's Kickstarter book. I backed it. Very fun little like book of fables, kind of about like the consequences of our actions and like trying to reconcile after a life of like harming others. We were talking about Comfortless. Crime Hot. Alec Robbins. Let's hang out. You seem like a cool person. Loved it's Lupin the Third if it was written by a cis woman who's angry that there's someone with bigger boobs in the room than her. If the phrase Sonic Yowie fascinates you, you'll probably like this.
Jesus Christ.
It's a weird vibe. It's very good. I love it a lot. It's very erotic Lupin the Third. Very silly, very fun. The Garfield bit is great. Drome by Jesse Lonergan. Also just great fun, formally ambitious, like Kirby-esque kind of stuff mixed with, I don't know, some kind of like space barbarian kind of stuff. Just formally ambitious, very good, very pretty edition. Search and Destroy by, Jesus Christ, what's his name? Atsushi Kaneko. I read the second volume. Third volume I haven't gotten a chance around to reading. Really good cyberpunk, like Soviet bloc dystopian riff on Dororo. Really good, really fun, really nasty. Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen, that goes without saying. We talked about Hawkeye earlier. If you are like, I like the DC universe when it's wacky and fun and it's about hookups in Gorilla City, like, this is your book. It's good, it's funny, it's a blast. I don't need to tell you more than that. I talked about Bagato already. I won't talk about Bleeding Hearts, because that's coming out soon. Absolute Green Lantern, we've talked about on the cast before. Wonderful book, sleeper hit. And then Solar Tarot's Witchcraft.
Which we've also talked about.
We've also talked about. Lovely.
Thanks for sticking around. If you made it to this point, I'm impressed. There's probably only one of you.
They love us. The people love us.
We'll see you next time for episode 11. This was the 2025 annual of Absolute Ultimate Escapist Comics Podcast.
And just remember, things are bad out there. Things are scary. All we have is each other. And also, I love you.